Δεν θέλω να φαίνεται αυτό εδώ. Φαίνεται αυτό.
Τώρα σε γενικό μπορεί να φάνει. Δεν μας πειράζει.
Το κρατάω έτσι.
Γράφω. Σε. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Πάμε.
Mr. Coelho, I feel very lucky that I can talk to you, but at the same time I feel nervous as well. Thank you very much for the honor you did to me. I have read all your books and I wonder how every new reader of yours and I would find the light through your morals to follow the right way.
In fact, every time that I write my book, I write to myself. I believe that writing, for me, it is the way that I choose to getting to know myself better. So I feel very pleased to know that whenever I go, wherever I go, my soul had traveled in front of me, and when I get there, I meet people who understands my soul. But in fact, the only thing that I share is my experience. It's not my wisdom. I believe that everybody has this potential to connect with life, with the spiritual energy, and a book just triggers that. It acts like a catalyst. But I cannot teach anything because I do believe that everybody knows everything, providing that he or she are able to open the door of the heart.
How can people from 45 and more countries in the world understand the same things from your book? How can you speak them to the same language?
When I write, I try to use a symbolic language because this is the only language that my soul understands. For example, in The Devil in Spring, where I talk about the fight between good and evil, instead of trying to explain the things, I use some old archetypes to explain to myself this endless fight. So I talk about wolves, I talk about dark forests, I talk about something that it is already in our genetic system. If you ask to a child, are you scared of an atomic bomb? The child will say, maybe, but if you say, are you scared of wolves? The child says, well, yes. So because we are dealing with a language that it is beyond words, we are dealing with symbols. So to talk to my soul, I used that language, and all of a sudden I realized that language is a common language among cultures. Of course, at the very beginning and up to today, I'm very surprised to know that the books sell very well all over the world. I could never dream about that because, I was trying to write to myself like most of the writers. But then you realize that there is this symbolic language that goes beyond imaginations. And you, Greeks, you found that when you wrote, your mythology, it is still something very, very modern, and it will always be very modern because instead of explaining the universe, you used some archetypes. So today, when you want to discuss something, you use Greek mythology to explain. So you see that it was you, the masters of the symbolic language.
Έχω πλάνο ανοιχτό, επειδή κουνάει τα χέρια του και είναι εκφραστικός.
Όσο ξεκίνησε και από τα χέρια του.
Πρόσεχε να μην μπαίνεις μέσα. Πάμε.
What inspired you to write The Devil and Miss Spring?
When I decide to write a book, it's not that I choose a subject. It is that somehow I had written this book in my soul. So I have some ideas and I start to think about them. And after 2 years, this idea itself has written the book, and the only thing that I have to do is to type it out. In the case of The Devil in Miss Spring, it was, as I live in a very complex country, And I see at the same time happiness and misery. Is God good? Are we good? Are we evil? So I always had this question.
In your book, in your book there is a conflict between good and evil. Does that conflict exist in our everyday life too?
Not only in our everyday life, but every single moment of a day, we are facing decisions. We have to take decisions. And then we have to choose. And by choosing, you can choose the right step, the step that it is towards your dream, but you also can choose the wrong step, that it is the step that takes you away from your dream. So this is an everyday conflict.
Who are you, Mr. Coelho, at last? A writer, a traveler, a magician, an alchemist? What are you?
I am a writer who follows the ancient tradition of traveling. You know that at the very beginning, writers, they used to carry thoughts and feelings and emotions from different cultures to his or her culture. So a writer must live above all. It cannot be in an ivory tower, you know, isolated, thinking. This is something that doesn't work. So I am a traveling writer, a pilgrim.
In all your books, we can see a man who travels alone and seeks for himself and the real meaning of life. Is that a man yourself with your pleasant and unpleasant experiences?
I think that everything that it is in my book is me, myself. Either on the metaphoric aspect or a very direct one, you know, like the pilgrimage. It was my book, a book that I wrote about one experience, but The Alchemist, it is my metaphoric journey, it is my symbolic journey, or The Devil in Spring. It is this fight that I have in my soul between my angel and my own devil. So you cannot take something from nothing. So you have to take something from a source that you know not very well, but that you know well. And I know fairly well myself. So the things that I put in my book, I took from the source of my soul.
Γιώργο, μισό εδώ, κάτι. Πάμε. Γράφω.
Which way should a man follow who lives in the loneliness of the big cities and takes antidepressing pills to find himself? Should he follow his destiny or the path of religion?
I think that the destiny is the most important thing to follow. And from the moment that you start to follow your destiny, you realize that you're not alone. Probably you're not surrounded by people, but you are not alone at all. This is, in my opinion, how a book works, for example. It acts as a code. If I read this book or if I listen to this music and you also, it means that we are both connected to the same vibration, to the same level. So at the very beginning, when we decided that it is time to follow our dream, we have to undertake this decision and to move forward. Nobody's alone. I think that it was, for me, the greatest blessing of life. It was the moment that I started writing book and realizing that I myself, I was not alone. So that gave me extra strength to move forward. Therefore, we have no doubt about what we have to do, but sometimes we are surrounded by prejudices and fears and duties and a lot of things, so we keep away from ourselves. We are kept away from ourselves, but you know, we have no choice. If you wanted to be full of joy, I wouldn't say happy, because there are defeats, there are difficult moments, but you want to be full of joy. You have to pay the price, and move forward.
You are familiar with Christianism. You were a Buddhist. You talk the language of symbols and mysticism. Is it difficult for someone to know all this? And now they say that Muslims and Christians are going to have a war.
First of all, I would like to stress that, and it is a good chance that I am now in the Greek television to say that I really admire Greece during the Yugoslavian war, because it was the only country that said, stop, don't do that, It was a very noble attitude. As for this new war, this book, The Devil in Miss Spring, somehow has a prophetic aspect, because it is about a man who suffers a terrorist attack. And terrorists kill his family, and he goes for revenge. He doesn't go for justice, he goes for revenge. And this is the danger of this present moment, because instead of trying to balance the things, to understand that terror must be punished, but innocent people should not be killed in this process, it seems that the tendency so far, as I give you this interview, is, well, we are going to bomb, we are going to do whatever, we needed to do to justify our attitude. So in the case of The Devil in Miss Spring, the gentleman, the devil, he goes for killing innocent people just to take revenge. I am very concerned about that. I think that tolerance is the only solution, and understanding, and of course justice, but not, polarize the situations and starting a new war that we know that we will have no end, because this may be a war that we fight for God, and when you fight a war for God, there is no negotiation tables, there is nothing. So they should think, the American and Occident should think about taking, a step that can lead us to a much more dangerous situation than the one that we live today.
What kind of war will be this? Religious conflict of cultures, or war for the oils?
I don't believe in conflict of cultures. I believe that in understanding of cultures. In New Greek, you give, the example when you are totally open in the Acropolis for different influences. Christianity owns a lot to you, because it was there that they discussed, you are totally open, and that's why, in my opinion, the Greek civilization, it was the top moment of our history, because you were open to discussion. If there is a war, it will be a very dangerous war. Let's cross our fingers and pray that these men who hold power today, they can see clearly the things, because they are thinking short term. If there is a war, it will be a long war, and not a very conventional one, so everybody may be a victim. So I hope, I don't know whether I'm optimistic or I'm just,
You think it's war for oils from the American side?
It is?
Do you think that this is a war for petros, for oils, and not...
No, I don't think that. I think that it is a very complicated situation. When you start, in The Alchemist, there is a sentence that says, when you take a decision, you never know where this decision is going to lead you. I could never dream, for example, when I took a decision about writing books, that this decision will lead me to be sitting in front of you, and going to Greece and understanding that people there understand my soul, etc. So the thing is to stop a negative energy. And this is what we should do now, instead of explaining why do they go to war. Let me finish, son. You see the Serbian war that happened 2 years ago. Did it solve something? Nothing. The situation is the same. Yes, Milosevic is in Hague, but it is thanks to Yugoslavia, and not to NATO or whatever, you know. But now they have a problem there. The problem now goes to Macedonia, and nobody knows where this can lead. Why? Because they choose war to solve a conflict. And I think if they choose war to solve this conflict, it will be like we see now in the Balkans, you know, an endless struggle and guerrilla and warfare that nobody is able to control.
You've been through a lot of experiences: drugs, hippies, the death of a friend, mental clinic, prison, love, marriages, fame. You are only 54 years old.
Well, I lived my life. If I look back, I took the decisions. I have many things that I don't like in myself, but there is one thing that I do like in myself. I'm not a coward. I am a man who faces his decisions and who is able to choose. So I think that my probably only quality is to be brave.
You think you ran your life too fast?
I think that I did what I had to do. I cannot look back and say probably I should have chosen this path instead of that one. When we take decisions, and these decisions are linked to our destiny, I believe that we only take the right decisions. Because even if we take the wrong decisions, somehow the wrong decision will be corrected in a short period. So, well, I had this dream. Sometimes I was coward to get close, but then at the end I realized that there is no choice to a man but to take the risks of his life. So I took the decisions, and I lived through the decisions.
Okay. I wonder what people of like Madonna, Julia Roberts say to you when they meet you.
I read, well, the comments of Madonna, of Julia Roberts. So Julia Roberts includes, she accepted to participate in a documentary on my life, you know, and I was very moved. But I do believe that the readers are the readers. They may be very famous, they may be totally unknown, but what I feel good in this aspect is that I can share my soul with them. So when you think about Clinton or Madonna or Julia Roberts, you have to think also about a chain of people who are responsible for this book getting into their hands. I remember when I went to Greece and I met a gold medalist of Olympic Games, Nikki. She's a jumper. Nikki Bakoyani. And I arrived there and we sat to talk. She doesn't speak English. And then she mentioned that she read The Alchemist the day before she had her jump. I was very moved because we don't speak the same language physically. I mean, I don't speak Greek, she doesn't speak English or Portuguese, whatever. But she was able to read my soul, and I was able to be somehow with her in the moment that she was there in the competition. So it is very moving to, you know, to go to a cafe, someone comes to you and ask for you to sign a book, and then I will talk to you, or say I don't like this, or I like this. So I'm moved not only, you know, basically I'm moved by the readers, not by how well known the readers are.
In Brazil, the people adore two persons: Ronaldo with the magic legs and Coelho with the magic pen. I don't know if Ronaldo reads your books. Do you watch him?
I love Ronaldo. I think that sometimes, you know, his knee is giving too many problems, you know. But I love Ronaldo. I think he is a master on his art. He never mentioned that he read my book, but he was photographed reading my book when he was in Barcelona in the Barcelona football team. And I hope that he read, and because he asked to be photographed reading the 50 Mountain. So I was very pleased. He's a nice person, by the way.
How can you manage to write your books from 15 to 30 days while other authors need to complete them in years?
There is no rule for the creative process. In my case, I allow the book to be written before typing it. So I don't take notes, I don't do anything, I just live my life. I meet people, I give interviews, I go to the mountains, I go to the beach. Well, I live a normal life. Normal in the sense that, of course, I have a lot of open doors, but and I use this open door. And then once every 2 years, I think that somehow a question has remained, or an answer has appeared, and this is the book. The book is already written. The only thing that I have to do is to synchronize with this vibration to be able to put this book that I wrote in my soul into the computer and after into paper. But this is the shortest part, because the conception of the book is much more difficult. And then this is a very feminine process for me, because it goes to the realm of mystery. I get pregnant, and the book starts to manifest itself. But like any mother, I don't think, put 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth. The creative process is also to trust nature.
I would like you to wish something to Greek readers who adore you and look forward to every new book of yours.
First of all, I'd like to thank to the Greek readers, because to be read in Greece with all this cultural tradition that you have and that you kept and that influenced so much our civilization. You know. The good things that we have are Greek. The bad may be from, you know, other cultures, but we have, you know, a way of thinking, we have a political system, we have some epic poems that remain to today and influenced, well, generations and generations of writers. So the only thing that I have to say to the Greek readers is thank you, in the sense that they allowed me to share my soul with them. So they were able to understand me, and I am able to understand them. So the things that I really want to say is thank you. I wish I could look into their eyes, you know, and say one-to-one. This is impossible, of course, but every time that I'm in Greece, I feel like I am at home. I was in Greece 2 months before I started writing The Alchemist. You know, I came from Egypt, I went to Athens, I looked to, I said, oh my God, it is here, you know? And then I went back to Brazil, and 2 months later I started writing The Alchemist. So somehow I was touched by the Greek energy, and I feel very much, well, obliged in the sense that I appreciate very much how you are. Because when I went to Greece for the first time, I was totally unknown, of course, and people were warm, people were open, people were ready to share hospitality, that it is a very important value.
I forgot to ask you, who is your favorite author? You are the favorite author of millions of people.
Who is my favorite author? Well, I would say that I have 3 favorite authors. In my Olympus, no, Jupiter is Zeus, is Jorge Luis Borges. He's an Argentinian, and he taught me, well, everything that I know. And then there is Henry Miller, an American, who taught me how to write because he was very spontaneous. And finally there is William Blake, someone who was able to mix visions and reality, you know. And this is what I try to put in my books, this possibility of breaking the wall between the magical world and the physical world and putting the two together, because the two are together.
Να κάνετε το χαιρετιστήριο το τελευταίο.
Of course, besides the classics in Greece, there are two authors that I really admire. One is Nikos Kazantzakis. He's a great author. I don't see how you in Greece see him, because when I was there and I said I like Kazantzakis, people look at me. They were not very happy. I don't know why, but well, it's not none of my business. But he is a great writer. He was a man who was totally agnostic. No, he didn't believe in the spiritual world, and I think he was an author who was able to describe the spiritual world in a fantastic sense. The other one is Kavafis, that is, I think, one of the best poets of many, many generations. And his poem Ithaca, somehow it is a synthesis of everything that we are talking in this interview. I think that if you read Ithaca, you understand what I'm talking about. You go through your journey, and this is what is interesting. It's not Ithaca itself. Why don't like Kazantzakis?
You don't like?
I like, but the Greek don't like.
Most of the Greeks like him.
I don't believe.
You don't believe that most of the Greeks like, or?
That they don't like.
I've never heard.
That they don't like, yes.
I heard some comments.
Yes, but most of the people have read his book.
There is no Greek house without a book of Kazantzakis.
All the Greek houses are.
But so why the intellectuals are so? Did I have a false impression about Kazantzakis when I was in Greece?
The age. Young.
No, the intellectuals.
They're strange.
They're strange.
Most of them are strange.
Εγώ, Γιώργο,
Είσαι έτοιμος?
γράφω σε 5, 4. Κάτσε καλά, πόδι σου.
Όχι, εγώ να πάω
Κάτσε καλά. Κάτσε λίγο πιο κάτω την έδρα σου. Εκεί. Τον κοιτάς, δεν μας άρεσε εδώ.
Ναι.
Τον κοιτάς. Τον κοιτάς, εκεί. Έτσι. Δεν είναι ο θεατής σου, είναι ο κύριος. Ωραία. Λοιπόν, πάμε. Γράφω.
Mr. Coelho, ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Thank you.
Αν θέλετε λίγο τα χέρια να δω, που δίνετε τα χέρια, δώστε τα χέρια, εκεί. Σιγά, δώσ' το. Έτσι, ναι, εντάξει.
Εντάξει.
Εκεί λίγο πάλι κάνε μια έτσι.
Κύριε Λέζη.
Εντάξει.
Here that we first had a car.
Figlia, poi dopo. Ok.
We're going to film it? I don't know, because they choose a very strange.
¿Dónde está? Okay.
They don't speak Greek now, and they are not Greek people scattered. I told him
Η επιλογή του Πάολο Κοέλιο να μας συναντήσει εδώ δεν ήταν καθόλου τυχαία. Το βιβλίο του «Στις όχθες του ποταμού Πιέδρα, έκατσα και έκλαψα», που έγινε best seller σε πάνω από 40 χώρες του κόσμου, ξεκίνησε και γράφτηκε εδώ. Ολοκληρώθηκε σε ένα χωριό 20 χιλιόμετρα μακριά, στον Άγιο Σαββίν. Το νέο του βιβλίο που περιμένουμε και στην Ελλάδα, «Το Διάβολος της κυρίας Πριν», που έχει γίνει best seller στις περισσότερες χώρες της Ευρώπης, ξεκίνησε και αυτό επίσης να γράφεται εδώ και ολοκληρώθηκε σε ένα χωριό 12 χιλιόμετρα μακριά, το Βίσκο.
Maria, of course. Maria Católicos. Only that.
You saw the Taliban and the women with the burqa. They executed.
Today?
Before 3 days. They executed the women because εντάξει, γράψα από εκεί. Εντάξει, γράψα από εκεί.
Εγώ μπορώ να καμίσω. Η αγωνία. Λοιπόν, θέλω να μιλήσει Mr. Valerio speak.
Bonjour, good morning.
Καλημέρα.
Kalimera. Sweet face. And a few words.
Your first book, my father gave to me, The Fifth Mountain. He's a priest.
Oh, your father's a
Yes,
Orthodox.
Yes, Orthodox. And he read and then he gave it to me.
Γιώργο, είμαι έτοιμος.
Έτοιμος.
Ready?
Hola, hola.
Ready? Good luck. For me, 5.
Εγώ μεταξύ.
Το πόδι σου πρόσεχε πως να κάτσεις στα πόδι.
Δεν κάθομαι
Έτσι.
αυτό.
Ναι, όταν κάτσεις.
Θέλω να φαίνεται αυτό.
Όταν κάτσεις.
Φαίνεται αυτό.
Τώρα όχι, συγκεκριτικό μπορεί να κάνει. Δεν μας πειράζει.
Το κρατάω έτσι.
Λοιπόν, γράφω. Σε. 5, 4, 3, 2, πάμε.
Mr. Coelho, I feel very lucky that I can talk to you, but at the same time I feel nervous as well. Thank you very much for the honor you did to me. I have read all your books and I wonder how every new reader of yours and I would find the light through your morals, follow the right way.
In fact, every time that I write my book, I write to myself. I believe that writing, for me, it is the way that I choose to get you to know me, myself better. So I feel very pleased to know that whenever I go, wherever I go, my soul travels in front of me, and when I get there, I meet people who understand my soul. But in fact, the only thing that I share is my experience. It's not my wisdom. I believe that everybody has this potential to connect with life, with the spiritual energy, and a book just triggers that. It acts like a catalyst. But I cannot teach anything because I believe that everybody knows everything, providing that he or she are able to open the door.
How can people from 45 and more countries in the world understand the same things from your book? How can you speak them with the same language?
When I write, I try to use a symbolic language because this is the only language that my soul understands. For example, the Devil in Spring, where I talk about the fight between good and evil, instead of trying to explain the things, I use some old archetypes to explain to myself. It is endless fight. So I talk about wolves, I talk about dark forests, I talk about something that it is right in our genetic system. If you ask it to a child, are you scared of an atomic bomb? The child will say, maybe, but if you say, are you scared of wolves? The child says, well, yes. So, because we are dealing with a language that it is beyond words, we are dealing with symbols. So, to talk to my soul, I use that language, And all of a sudden I realized that language is a common language among the cultures. Of course, at the very beginning and up to today, I'm very surprised that the books sell very well all over the world. I could never dream about that because, I was trying to write to myself like most of the writers. But then you realize that there is this symbolic language that goes beyond imaginations. And you, Greeks, you found that when you wrote, your mythology, it is still something very, very modern, and it will always be very modern because instead of explaining the universe, you used some archetypes. So today, when you want to discuss something, you use Greek mythology to explain. So you see that it was you, the masters of the symbolic language.
Stop. Έχω πλάνο ανοιχτό, επειδή κουνάει τα χέρια του και είναι εκφραστικός. Πρόσεχε να μην μπαίνεις μέσα.
Κάτι άλλο που ισχύει στην πλάτη σου. Μην την καμπουλιάζεις.
Είσαι έτοιμος?
Όχι.
Ναι. From me, θες να διαβαστεί.
Πάμε.
Δεν αγωνίσεις τίποτα εσύ. Πάμε.
What inspired you to write The Devil and Whispering?
When I decide to write a book, it's not that I choose a subject. It is that somehow I had written this book in my soul. So I have some ideas and I start to think about them. And after 2 years, this idea itself has written the book, and the only thing that I have to do is to type it out. In the case of The Devil in the Spring, it was, as I live in a very complex country, and I see at the same time happiness and misery. Is God good? Are we good? Are we evil? So I always have this question.
In your book there is a conflict between good and evil. Does that conflict exist in our everyday life too?
Not only in our everyday